Okay, perfect. So this week, as you all know, this is our very first group session where we are talking about the methods that you are able to use to go about locating units to list for Airbnb. So the training and our objectives this week are pretty much just number one, outlining those ways that you're able to do that and find some units to list within your area. So there are about 3 to 4 ways that I'm going to outline and show you all how to do that I personally use, and then just that I know about how to just identify units. The second objective that we're going to go through is just understanding that whole process and the script and what questions to ask when you're actually creating your own hit list of options. So for some of you, we discussed this just a little bit within your roadmap call, and you all already have that leasing tracker where you're able to kind of track that information per apartment. But we're going to walk through that and then those questions as well. And if you have seen the corporate leasing webinar, again, that information just supplements this. So if you have not watched the corporate leasing webinar, watch that replay. You can access it, number one, via the Facebook group, as well as the actual course platform that we have too. And then number three, just ditching the confusion and really gaining some confidence to actually have these conversations with all of these stakeholders. Because I know for many of you, it is a matter of the entire question or premise or roadblock that you've been experiencing is, what do I actually say to these people in order to get a yes? What do I actually say to these people just so that they can better understand my business model and the way that I actually present that information? So those are our 3 objectives that we are going to be talking about today. And then what we are also going to be doing is introducing Shanice. So Shanice is on this call as well. Shanice, I got your message in the chat. Thank you so much. We are going to be introducing that, and you are actually going to come into play in about 10 minutes. So once I explain that first method, I'll bring Shanice in, and then she's going to introduce herself for those specifically that are in the area, in the Atlanta area, as a resource for you all. So Shanice, I'll loop you in just a second.
All right, sounds good.
Perfect. Okay, so just starting out, right, the most important piece that I need all of you to understand is that you are not looking for a place that accepts Airbnb. Number one, that is not the objective starting out for any of us. It's not necessarily a place that accepts Airbnb, because if you are looking for that initially, you are going to be met with a lot of rejection and disappointment at first. You are looking for people in apartment complexes and resources, landlords that are specifically accepting the business model that you have to present, which for all of you is that short-term renting business model. And for many of you, and honestly, some of you on this call, that is going to be looking a lot different, because what short-term renting is, and then just the way that it breaks down, there's actually different routes that you're able to choose. Now, for many of you, we've talked through this a little bit slightly already, but this is just going to add a little bit more background. So you already know that the overarching umbrella is really just all of these short-term renting avenues that you have. Now, the 2 ways that you're able to directly go into that is, number one, through corporate leasing, which many of you are looking to get started with. That is the route of utilizing your business's credit to get into these apartment units and get started with actually renting it on short-term rental platforms, third-party platforms. That other route is just general or standard leasing. Some people refer to it as personal leasing. This is when you are utilizing your own name, your social security number, and they are specifically going to be pulling your information. Those are the 2 ways that you're able to get started. Both of these avenues are referring to or are a part of rental arbitrage, which is a term that some of you may have heard about already. If any of these terms are not making sense, or you're like, okay, we're going a little bit fast, understand that within our course platform, there is a foundational terminology document that you're able to follow along with that kind of helps and breaks down what these definitions and what these different words mean. But yes, that is rental arbitrage. Corporate leasing is one method of rental arbitrage, in addition to just general leasing and then turning around and just going around the apartment complex or the leasing office. Now, in terms of getting started with leasing and just re-renting these places on different third-party platforms, you have to understand that in addition to just Airbnb, there are a number of other third-party platforms that are available. And this is why we say you are not necessarily looking for a space that accepts Airbnb. Because if you look at the bottom of this diagram that we have, Airbnb is literally just one of many, many, many short-term rental platforms. So I went ahead and listed 5 here just so that this can get your juices flowing in terms of thinking about who am I specifically catering to? Because Airbnb is really just the granddaddy of the platforms. It is the main one that people know about. It's the largest one. However, There are other platforms such as Vacation Rental by Owner, VRBO, HomeAway, Booking, FlipKey. Some of you may have heard of Furnished Finder. I know that many of you are within the healthcare field. Furnished Finder is one that typically travel nurses are using as well, but there are a number of them. So when we say that this is not necessarily just an Airbnb business, or when we say that you are not looking for places that just accept Airbnb, this is what we mean. Because even if they do not accept Airbnb, there are other platforms that you're still able to list that space on if they specifically call out that you cannot do Airbnb, and you're still able to make the same kind of money using the same methods. So that is the piece that we want to make clear just first and foremost.